Hi there, everybody, and long time no see. My name is Riela McDowell, and in this little video here, I'm gonna kind of give you guys a bit of an update on what happened. Why did I disappear? Um, Basically, just a lot of these things, and I'll also end the video by kind of doing a shameless plug-in for something that I've been working on for the past couple of months or so. So, without further ado, let's just kind of jump right into this thing, shall we? So, first and foremost, hi there. It has been since April 26, 2020 that I have last uploaded onto this channel, and I kind of wanted to use this month 3 years ago because this is when it started to kind of start the whole downfall type of thing. But I kind of say like the story will have a bit of a middle happy ending to say the least because around 2022 to 2023 that's when I started to gain that resurgence back into doing YouTube, but we can't talk about that until we talk about the 2020, 21 type of thing. But we need to also talk about the late 2019 to say the least. So to kind of give the bit of the small little fracture point, this channel was created back in December 28, 2019. But beforehand, I've already had an idea of what I wanted to do with the channel. Being a big fan of YouTubers like Nagatilili, Kakaskia, Echo6, Benisco, like those types of video content creators really started to like broil down what I wanted to do as a kind of like what I wanted to do on the side gig. But I also noticed at the time too, because like I was also juggling as a college student with a whole content creator. But I've also decided around that point, like around November and December, that I kind of wanted to start procuring myself either a part time or a full time gig job so that I can start to procure some funding because around that time frame, um, so before I talk about that time, I want to also talk about the channel first. So basically, I remembered. I don't fully remember, so I shouldn't say I fully remember. I sparingly remembered that I originally had videos come out in the first week of January because that was the original release date for the channel. But I think what happened was that I didn't like the original video that I had in store that I originally had first. I don't remember what it was, but when I when I was thinking to myself, I didn't like it, so I decided to delete those videos and decided to retry. But I think what I instead of a retry, because I wanted my first game to be a blind LP. So what I decided to do was I actually went off and decided to look somewhere for a new game, to say the least, for this channel. And then out of nowhere, I discovered Digital Devil Story Megami Tensei for the NES or the Family Disc System, to which after a little bit of looking around and finding out that this was the very beginning of both the Shin Megami Tensei and that would later lead into the Persona games, one of my favorite franchises, I've decided to basically I decided to do this game as my very first on this channel, to which I recorded the games in January, like when I rechanged the games. I think I still had Soul Blazer and the Sword of Hope as my still secondary games, but basically around that point, I started to record Digital Devil Story, which would become the newest project, to say the least. Um, to kind of go into more further details about this entire progress, basically what. So around this time frame, with the whole like now to get back into the main gig of saying like I was trying to look for a part time gig to a full time gig, is because around this point I was also kind of also went to experimenting and doing some more like high level type of games. I don't know if released back in 2020 anymore. I think like I wanted to do something like I'll do an example like Cyberpunk 2077, say at least. I knew at the time like my Legion laptop was not going to be powerful enough to run that game, or at the very least run it at like a 60 FPS. So the reason like I was also looking for like that part-time full-time gig as well is so that I can basically transition away from having a laptop to a full-blown desktop, which it wouldn't be until 2022 that I was able to basically procure myself a desktop. But that is a flashback, or that not flashback, that is a flash forward. We need to flash back into 2020. So basically, around that point, I was basically applying for like 10 different jobs, to which none of them would mostly hire me. There was one job actually that just, well, let me rephrase that. Nine jobs, the nine jobs I applied to didn't hire me, but there was like one job, and it was Buffalo Wild Wings, that I applied for, and they never responded to me until a year later for telling me like we decided to move on. So it was a very unique story to say the least. Very funny. 'Cause I actually told some of my coworkers about that uh, little fun little thing there. It took them a whole year to kind of say sorry, but we've come to a decision that we don't want to employ you. So that was basically the whole fun little thing there. But that's a completely different story there. But basically around the 2020 or so, I was trying to look for a job so that again I could get me a computer, and basically around January and February and March is when I was also like juggling as a college student at the time, and I think it was not around that months or so, but it was around like also like the previous year as well, like middle last year or not last year, I'd say at least like the middle of the year of 2019, I was starting to gain a bit of a I was starting to get a little bit of a burnout to say the least for my classes, and the frustration of my direction of what I wanted to do, to which kind of resulted in like me taking a bit of a sabbatical right now from my college, and I'm still on that sabbatical. I kind of still want to go back and try to finish up some things right now because I think I have a little bit of that energy to do it, but time will tell. Um, but basically, like that's like the core reason for it. But the the main thing I kind of just want to bring up is that around the month of March, or the month of March to say the least, because this is when it began. When like I think I was like still in the good moderate of recording videos and uploading them. I think because I think actually no, I think around the March it was also a bit of problems because I remember that I think one of my videos was either not recording because around the time so around this time, around the middle of March, my Legion laptop, which was the laptop I used to record everything, was starting to have a little bit of issues, to say the least, which kind of made it a little bit more impossible to record the games that I wanted to do. Which, at the time, you had like Final Fantasy, or not Final Fantasy, Fire Emblem, the very first Fire Emblem game, as well as like War Song, and just like a lot of games that ended up having to be like right now permanently shelved because I couldn't do anything about it because at the time, and my laptop basically crashed, which in turn basically means I had no way of basically getting my to do anything for this channel, so which really did upset me, which was a very sad story for me. But what kind of made it a little, because I still had like an Acer, but it didn't like affect me too heavily because I had a backup laptop ready to go. It was like an Acer laptop, but it wasn't as really powerful, and I think I might have actually messed with it when I did Resident Evil 7 with it, because something with that kind of resulted in the game completely, or that computer completely being screwed over. But that's a story not related, but kind of a funny thing right there. But um to kind of talk about the whole process still, the idea of in the month of March, around before my laptop broke down, like maybe a week after, or the week before, I finally was able to get me employed at a certain hub facility, to say the least. Not a minor hub, but a main hub, like a central hub, to say the least. And basically, I will just say I'm a package handler at the time. Um, at the time when I joined the company, it was a really good payload, or good payout, to say the least. It was good pay at the time, good money at the time. I don't know why I keep on saying the. I don't know why I keep talking about the pay range, but basically, when I joined the company, I'm not gonna say the company's name, but like to kind of like again, it's gonna be a little bit. It's gonna be an easy throwaway to say who I was employed with at the time, or still am. Basically, around the point time frame, to say the least, I was able to start to gain just a little bit of that funding or so, because basically, if you already know, or as I like to say it, like the week after I got employed is when everything started to lock down. Like the whole lockdown started to happen. Nobody was able to leave the houses. Malls were closed down. College, all the schools were basically forced to shut down, or at the very least, result to going into a Zoom. Which, in reality, as soon as I found out about that entire progress, the whole lockdown, that kind of just made the subtopical even more thing that I had to do, because I didn't want it to do like online classes, which I didn't really like the idea of online classes. I was so happy about it at the time, but now looking at it, it's like I didn't really like it because I would be at home, not at the school with friends or so, which at the time I completely understand. Social distancing will keep everybody safe. Um, but at the same time, like, being locked down in a household, doing absolutely nothing for most, I don't even remember, like maybe 5 or 6 months or so, with like nothing to do. That was completely borderline driving me to insanity. Which, um, like I mentioned already, around March, or around the week after, again, the week after the whole pandemic started, the actual pandemic started to happen, I was able to get me employed with a certain hub company, and basically I was able to procure a little bit of money, and at the same time, I was able to kind of help a little bit of that mental problem that I was having, because I was able to, like, not getting the same, like, was able to, like, get like social distance with that, but I was able to form connections with people again that I haven't felt in since the beginning. So it's getting a little bit talking about pandemic stuff, but it does kind of not relate to the story, but kind of does come back into the main premise later on. But basically, again, my laptop broke down, so I couldn't record anything. I didn't want to record with my Acer laptop at the time too, because it was also completely fried from something about a memory leakage from Resident Evil 7, which completely is my fault too. So yeah, so at the time I couldn't do any video uploading at all. Um, Basically, then it took me until 2020, like the middle of 2020, to at least the next year, to 2021, because everything was starting to work. Um, at this point, like, again, I would be at a subtopical with college, but I was working at least part-time hours at my job for a twilight shift, which would mostly be like 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. at the time. Around this point, one of my coworkers, actually, he was by himself. He was a lead above me. He was a package handler lead, so he would be in charge of, like, training or coaching the new package handlers, to say the least, and he would be all by himself on the weekdays, weeknights, to say the least, which in turn was like really the was a very interesting story for me, because I saw that, and I was like, he was by himself training like 10 or 15 people all by himself in the walls, to say the least, and there was like no other trainers there on the weekends. So I decided in the middle of the year afterwards to basically get that promotion, and luckily I did. I got the promotion. I became a package handler lead, and to this very day, I still am. I refuse to become a package handler manager. I am not going to deal with that stress. But to kind of go back into the idea of why this kind of relates to the 2022 thing, because of the pay range that I was receiving with the whole incentives, as well as at the time there was an increase of pay for coming in on the weekends, that I was able to procure a good amount of money to start to get that opponent components for making a computer. Now, basically around 2020 to 2021, there was almost, at least to my memory, there was almost nowhere to find parts, to say the least, or at least for anything that was available would be scalped. Like, I couldn't even find me a bloody PS5 until like maybe 2022, to say the least, because like everything was like 950 to 1,000, and I sadly had to succumb to the idea of buying a scalper's PS5. One of my biggest mistakes. But basically, around this time, I was able to also buy me a new laptop, to say the least, an MSI Legion, or not Legion, an MSI laptop, which basically it was good. It's a good way to, like, as a good filler, but it was not going to be what I wanted as a thing, because I wanted to still have a computer. Which around 2022, when I had enough money and the part and everything was like kind of looking a little bit more normalized, to say the least, for parts to come through and everything else. Luckily for me, one of my new hires at the time, who is still a good friend of mine, was able to, like, help me out in, like, kind of building this computer. Now, I kind of want to point out that this computer that I have with me, that I've had since last year, is not built was never built by me or my friend. This was actually manufactured by iBuyPower. Instead, like I actually picked the product, but I customized it to have the parts that I wanted. To which kind of funny because like at the time we wanted or my buddy wanted an i7 like an i7 processor and I forget the RTX at the time. I think it was the same RTX like a 3080. But later I decided to go behind his back and go for an AMD Ryzen 9. To which the conversation for that day when I told him that I went for an AMD than Intel was a very fun little one-to-one conversation. It was very fun. But I bought the computer and it was shipped the week after my birthday, and it was like 2 weeks. I was waiting for the computer. It was like in burning process. It was like doing all the testing to make sure that it would run, and then 3 weeks later, I would finally get the computer of my dreams. Well, I finally got the thing that I wanted ever since I started this channel, which was always going to be the one I wanted to do. I didn't want to record from my laptop anymore. I actually wanted to record from my computer, to which I needed a monitor. I needed a better monitor than the monitor that I had, or the hand-me-down monitor that I had. Basically, I ended up getting an LG monitor, which is a very good monitor for me right now with a good G-Sync compatible. Later on, or starting in 2023 or so, I actually went ahead and I funded a little bit of extra money to actually buying a second monitor for dual monitor setup. Now, around 2022 to 2023, I kind of decided to demote from a full timer to a part timer. Um, I had also an ulterior. I also had a little bit of a ulterior motive for doing that too, because in reality, um, the full time gig for 10 hours from like 11, like at the time it was like 11 a.m. to like 11 p.m. was a very bad on mental health again, and I've also never wanted to do a full time gig. I kind of wanted to go full time and then or part timer, and try to go move to the day sort, which has been my plan, and which has was actually made fruitful. I am actually a day sorter now instead of a night shifter. Um, but to kind of give that more, because again the story is about to wrap up right now. Again, it's mostly talking about like the money and the whole funding of stuff. But when I got the computer and a little bit of testing and everything, I finally went out of my way and I finally made the decision to, like I've got a better computer. I don't remember my password for this account until earlier this year. So, out of the bloom, I've decided that, you know what, I'm gonna create a new channel. Now, basically, I'm not gonna lie, I have created at least two channels at the time. The first channel was actually a big success. It was actually during the time of my because I actually so before I bought the dream computer that I wanted, I actually had a I did actually buy me a store bought computer, which to this very day I regretted to living hell. I never want to buy a store bought computer ever again. Um, Basically, and I remember it at the time because I was actually recording. I was trying to do like the whole channel thing again, and around that time frame when I was like recording and uploading all that stuff, and with the full time gig that I was doing, it was not helping me at all. Like I just got a huge burnout, and then it just resulted in me just ending that entire channel right there, or just entirely nuking it from the very get go because I just couldn't keep up with the both the grind and the at the time the channel thing. So it was a nightmare, which is why I also went part time as well, so that I can have the day being, or at least the morning to being the video recording, the day being where I work, and then the nighttime either being the recording or me just falling asleep or watching anime. Um, but as soon as I got the dream computer, um, and a little bit of time to finally make the decision, I finally decided that around or so, basically, again, I think in December or so, that I kind of wanted to get back into the more grooves of recording videos, or actually, it was August actually of last year. Around August or so, I've created the channel Chromostasis, which is the new channel that I'm currently on. Um, which is again, that's where the terrible plugin comes in now. Basically, Chromostasis is the same content, or I would like to say, it's the same things that I do, but at a very different level of a scale that I'm doing. So basically, what it is that I am uploading videos on that channel from Monday through Sunday at a 10 a.m., 11 a.m., and a 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, or Pacific Daylight Time to say the least. I don't know. I said standard. The videos still kind of still ranging from my Let's Plays, but from a completely different format. So basically, what it is that Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, you get an RPG. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday, you'll be getting a classic retro, and Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday, you'll be getting an indie puzzle, and then finally to wrap it up with Wednesday and Sunday, you are gonna get a triple A or a visual novel, which is something that I would never have done on this channel without I would never have done it without this channel, without the help of both the funding of the job and basically everything that I've done. So basically, that's just one thing I just wanted to talk about. Mostly, I will also mention that my entire upload schedule is completely ripped off from Keith Ballard. I completely ripped that part off, but I made it just a little bit of originality, but I completely just ripped off Keith Ballard's upload schedule. So I do apologize for that, that that type of upload schedule did kind of inspire me to kind of get back into doing videos as well. But yeah, again, it took me at least a good while to kind of get back into the grind of things. I know this video doesn't really give the best explanation, but basically to kind of summarize it, and I'll even put it in the description as well. Basically, a lot of stuff happened in 2020, and basically my laptop that had all my files was just completely gone. It was just gone from the moment it crashed. Um, I had to get me a part-time gig, and then got promoted to a full-time gig, and then I demoted a year later. But with the funding that I was able to procure from both my taxes and the job that I had, as well as the incentives, I was able to basically go ahead and buy me a new desktop, a new custom-made desktop, and basically that's all I gotta really much say right now. It's again, um, there wasn't really much that happened around the time frames, like around like saying like I had another channel that I uploaded in 2022 or 2021 or say at least, but that had to be completely scrapped when I couldn't keep up with the demanding of like both my full-time gig and the channel. So around the time when I went part-time and finally did everything, I finally decided, you know what, this is the time where I'm finally gonna upload these videos, record videos and upload them, and try to make it look at least much better, and maybe try to, you know, do something. And basically, that's what I'm doing. Um, Whoever's watching this video, I'll leave a link in the description for my new channel, and mostly it's just the same type of content, or not the same content, but it's the same type of stuff that I've done from the other channel, but just completely unprofessional. So yeah, um, until then, um, well, I could say someone, I'll see you guys next time, but that term would be used on the new channel to say the least. So, um, mostly, this is Riella McDowell, formerly Riella McDowell, as I now go on my new channel name as either Haruna or Aoyama. Um, until next time, either I'll see you guys on the new channel or the archive, or this archive channel. So until then,